On this edition of Test Drive, we look at the revised version of Mazda's MPV minivan. Now, not only have they redone the exterior styling and revamped the interior, they've also added this, a fourth door.
One of the problems of adding a fourth door to a minivan is that in doing so you risk compromising the structural integrity of the body. Well, Mazda have done a good job incorporating a perimeter subframe into the monocoque cabin. Even the riggers of the cobblestone roads in and around Quebec City did not bother the body. Indeed, I noted little in the way of twist or flex. For better overall safety, the engineers have increased the length of the body by a little over 7.5 inches. This allows for larger crumple zones, and now all doors, including the fourth door, now feature side impact beams that meet the requirements of passenger cars. Power for the MPV is supplied by a modified version of the 3-litre single overhead cam 18-valve V6 found in last year's model. The modifications all come in the form of fuel management. The old vane-type airflow sensor has been replaced with a hot wire system. This and the revised intake runners put more power in the usable rev range. With 155 horsepower and 169 pounds-feet of torque available, throttle response is lively even if you use the seating capacity to the max. Thumbs up for the fact that most of the power shows up for work between 1800 and 2800 RPM.
When I originally tested the MPV, I commented on how complicated Mazda's hold feature was that they used to control the gears. Well, on this edition, they've dropped that system in favor of a straight on-off button for the overdrive. This not only makes the thing a whole lot easier to understand, it also makes it much more user-friendly.
The MPV is offered in both rear-wheel drive and four-wheel drive formats. The latter is a must for anyone who lives in a snowbelt region. The degree of traction it offers has to be experienced to be believed. I certainly appreciated the system in the rain we encountered because in two-wheel drive the MPV can become a little tail-happy. To switch between two and four-wheel drive is as simple as a flick of a switch. There is also a diff lock for the center differential. When engaged, the MPV is all but impossible to get stuck. The suspension is comprised of coil springs and struts up front with a 5-link live axle in back and roll bars at both ends. For 96, Mazda have retuned the whole lot to reduce the amount of body roll during cornering. The result is a more comfortable and confident ride because the van no longer feels like it's going to fall over if you drive it with a degree of enthusiasm. Again, the cobblestone roads were handled with suitable aplomb. Mazda have also tightened up the feel of the speed-sensitive power steering. The result is that you now have to put in fewer corrections to maintain a straight line on the highway. Stopping power is supplied by a four-wheel disc brake system that features ventilated discs at both ends as well as anti-lock. The advantage of having ventilated discs all round is that you are much less likely to encounter fade when you use the MPV to capacity. The stopping distance is averaged 124 feet from 80 kilometers an hour, the weather accounting for the longer than usual distances.
One of the drawbacks of the old MPV was the fact that you couldn't remove the rear seat unless, of course, you happened to have a toolkit handy. Well, on this vehicle, release a few catches, the seat lifts out. The beauty is, it's really not that heavy. The drawback, however, they still haven't flattened out the floor pan. There's still quite a drop off from where the rear seat sits down to where the center seats rest.
With the back seat in situ, you have 11.1 cubic feet of cargo space. Fold it down and tumble it forward and the volume increases to 37.5 cubic feet. On the subject of space, there is an abundance of head and reasonable legroom in all seating positions. The MPV is much more user-friendly than previous van. The instrumentation is larger and consequently easier to read, and the layout of the controls has been rationalized, making them easier to locate and operate. The one fly in the ointment is still the fact that the radio is impossible to use without looking at it, partially because the buttons are on the fiddly side and partially because it sits a long way down the center console. Elsewhere you'll find an oversized sunroof plus dash-mounted and rear controls for the dual AC and heater. On the safety front, the MPV comes with standard ABS and dual airbags, 3-point seat belts and headrests in all outboard positions, and child-proof door locks on both back doors.
Well, that's it for this rather damp edition of Test Drive. You know, Mazda have done a very good job in redesigning the MPV. The fourth door and the fact that you can now remove the rear seat with relative ease are sure to pay dividends. If there is a downside, it remains in the fact that the floor plan is still not flat. This means that vehicle remains firmly focused as a people hauler as opposed to a truly multi-purpose vehicle.